I have here PC 188 slides. Now, so the topic is quite long, so I suggest you listen. So that when you go back studying on your own, you'll somehow, well, it will be easier for you to study on your own. You'll pick up the things. If you listen to me, you'll pick up the things which I think are important. And you can tell by now that all my questions during my exams are all taken in my PowerPoint and the things that I usually emphasize in my lecture. Okay, so let's begin. Just a short overview of fungal properties. Now first, the type of cell in fungi is eukaryotic, similar to man, unlike bacteria, which are prokaryotic. So since we share the same cell type with fungi, well, that's one reason why it's difficult to come up with an effective treatment or effective drug or effective antifungal therapy against mycosis, because it's difficult to target just fungal cell wall without damaging normal human cell as well. No. Cell wall, but there are of course differences. Like in the cell wall of fungi is composed of basically three important structural polymer. These are the a thick beta glucan layer. It is comprised of 50 to 60% polysaccharide. So here the thick beta glucan layer, which is primarily the structural polymer of the cell wall, which gives rigidity to the cell. And in addition to that, you have a thin layer of chitin, also considered to be one of its major structural polymer, consists of polysaccharide as well, also gives rigidity to the cell wall. And you have here at the topmost layer are the manoproteins, which gives porosity to the cell wall. So the difference in man, you do not have this chitin layer over here. Now, so that's the cell wall. Well, and it's the function of the cell wall, aside from giving its rigidity, it functions for attachment, for stimulating antigenic response, immunologic response, also responsible for virulence and activation of the complement system. No? Some fungi would have melanin in their cell wall, which will impart a black colored pigment in the to the fungus. No? So yung mga dark colored or black colored fungi, so it means we refer to them as demataceous fungi. So those fungi secreting melanin are referred to as demataceous fungi. So you expect that the colonies that they produce and the spores that they produce are black or dark in color. No? So that is the cell wall, while the cell membrane is a bilayer membrane composed of ergosterol, and it's actually composed primarily of ergosterol. In contrast with man has cholesterol within their cell membrane, while fungi fungus has ergosterol. So this differences the ergosterol, beta-glucan layer, chitin, these are considered to be the site of action of most of the antifungal drugs, primarily not directed towards ergosterol. So since this is the main difference of most antifungal are directed towards those differences. Yeah. Ergosterol, chitin, and beta-glucan layer. So function of the cell membrane is for protection. It regulates intake of electrolytes and facilitates cell wall and capsular synthesis. No? And any question? Okay, so other characteristic of fungi, they're achlorophyllous, they lack the chlorophyll pigment and therefore incapable of photosynthesis. They are, however, capable of chemoheterotropic, aerobic, and facultative aerobic respiration. Some are also capable of fermenting sugars. They are saprophytes, especially the mold forms, meaning they derive their nutrients from nutrients and energy from dead and decaying matter through or via simple absorption or diffusion. They can be found anywhere in the environment, both terrestrial and aquatic, particularly in plants and in soil. But some can also be part of the normal human flora. They may be free-living or may form intimate relationship with other organisms. No? Most parasitic fungi are considered plant pathogens, but around 300 out of the 200,000 species are also pathogenic to man. Pero we're not going to take up all 300, just the more important ones or the more commonly encountered in practice. So this one, this characteristics is that they reproduce both sexually and asexually via the production of spores. So as far as clinical microbiology is concerned, this is important. No? Why? Because the basis of identifying genus and species fungi is will be based on the morphology of the spores that they produce. No? Okay. There is they exhibit wide variability, no, in their spores. So that will form the basis of identifying fungi. So as far as we're concerned in the clinical laboratory, ito yung ating main concern. How to identify them based on their characteristic appearance based on the characteristic appearance of their colonies on Saborod's dextrose agar, which is the culture medium for isolating fungi. Now, Saborod's dextrose agar, and so the colonies that they produce there, plus their microscopic characteristic, the microscopic characteristics of spore. So yun yung that's what we're going to look at this afternoon. No? So we'll try to describe as much as at least the more common ones. No? Okay. So there are two types of they reproduce spores sexually and asexually. So sexually, there are the more important spores produced through sexual reproduction are the three ascospores, basidiopores, and zygospores. If you will notice, the name of the spores follows the name of the class or the phylum. So those fungi belonging to class Ascomycetes, the sexual spores are referred to as ascospores. So something like that. No? Ascospores, so we have ascospores from class Ascomycetes, basidiospores, sexual spores from Basidiomycetes, and zygospores, sexual spores from Zygomycetes. Now, so ascospores are characterized by a sac-like structure which contains 8 spores inside. A sac-like structure known as ascus. Thus the name ascospores, because of the characteristic sac-like structure known as ascus. So inside the ascus are 8 ascospores. Okay, so the basidiospores are characterized by a special club-shaped, this is characterized by a specialized club-shaped structure or your typical umbrella structure of the mushroom. Beneath that, spores are produced. So that specialized club-shaped structure is known as basidium. Thus the name basidiospores. Zygospores, the spores are contained within a structure known as sporangium. So, but as far as identifying fungi is concerned, no, the more important spores or the more useful, significant spores are the spores produced through asexual reproduction. No? So there are basically two types of asexual spores. The the endogenous type, which are known as sporangiospores, and the exogenous type, which are the conidia. So example. Okay, the endogenous type, these are the sporangiospores, no? Similar to zygospores. They are contained within a structure known as sporangium. The plural form is sporangia. No? So this sporangium are formed at the tip of this structure known as a specialized hypha. It's formed at the tip of this structure, which is a specialized hypha known as sporangiophore. Okay? And the hypha, this specialized hypha, is actually a branch of the main hypha or the stolon, which is the basic structural element of filamentous fungi. So you have the hypha here, it will branch out to form sporangiophore or conidiophore if it's a conidia. So for sporangiophore, and at the tip of that sporangiophore is the sporangium. And inside the sporangium are the sporangiospores. Okay, I hope you get that. There are two types of sporangiospores, the motile type and the non-motile type. The motile type are known as zoospores, while the non-motile type are known as aplanospores. Okay? So that's the endogenous type, which is enclosed within a sporangium. The other type is the exogenous type, wherein the spores are formed directly from the hypha. Okay. So this type of spores are the exogenous spores known as conidia. No? There are two types of, so again, conidia, the spores are formed directly from the hypha. So wala na siyang sporangium. No? So there are two types of conidia based on how they are produced. These are the thallic and the blastic. The thallic conidia are produced through septation and fragmentation of the hypha. So example, this hypha, so example, this is a hypha here. This hypha will undergo septation and fragmentation. Now, ultimately, each fragment or each segment will become a conidia or a conidiospores or conidia or conidiospores or the spore. No? So here you have the stolon here. It will branch out to form the specialized hypha known as conidiophore, and that specialized hypha will undergo septation and fragmentation to form the conidia. No? So there are two types of thallic conidia. Those that are formed at those spores that are formed at the tip of the hypha. So those that are formed at the tip of the hypha are known as arthrospores, while those that are formed at a more central location of the hypha are known as chlamydospores. Okay, so that is the first type of conidia, those that are formed through septation and fragmentation. The other type is blastic conidia, wherein spores are formed through swelling or budding of the hypha. Now, marami ring klase. There are also many different types of blastic conidia, but we will not go into go into that in details. No, so but in general there are blastic conidia with some differences. So the differences we'll just discuss as we describe each fungi. Okay? So this is it. Yun yung sinabi ko. Okay, well, it's all there. So example. So again, they exhibit wide variability in the colony, in the type of colonies, in the colonies that they produce. and in the spores that they produce. For the purpose of identification, we describe all this. We describe the colonies that they produce as to one, as to um, as to the rate of growth, if it's rapidly growing, if it's slow growing, moderately growing. So we describe that, the rate of growth. We describe the color, if it's white, yellow, black in color. So we describe all that. We describe also the texture of the colonies, not if it's granular, velvety, or sugary, velvety, ano pa bang description nila. So, well, the texture, we describe it also. And the amount of sporulation, if it's heavy sporulation or light sporulations, we describe all this. And what's more difficult is the appearance of the colonies in front of the agar plate may be different from the back of the agar plate. So we describe both sides. Well, fortunately for that, for you guys, since we do not have samples of these colonies in the laboratory, so hindi na namin tinatanong yan. So we no longer, I don't think it's fair to ask if we're not be able to show it to you. No, it's unfair to ask the question. No? And aside from that, I myself, no, I get confused. I get confused. I'm so overwhelmed by, by you just trying to memorize all those. It will be difficult. If I cannot do it, it's not fair also that I expect you to do it. So I do away with that. I do not ask questions. But maybe if you go into dermatology, you will go deep into that, no? But it becomes easier when you do it every day. When it's part of your clinical application, you see it every day, you do it every day, you're exposed to it every day. So your skills will just improve. So it becomes an easy task there. Pero just studying it once, I don't think it's practical. No? So what I'm going to focus on is the microscopic appearance of the spores that they produce. Okay, the microscopic characteristics. So the spores we also describe as to one, the shape. So it could be barrel shape, it could be oval, it could be spindle shape, it could be lollipop shape, maraming shape, lahat na ng shape you will encounter in mycology. No? We also describe the size of the spores. If they are big, they're referred to as macrochlamydia. If they are small, we refer to them as microchlamydia. No? We also describe the number of cells, if they're unicellular or multicellular. Sometimes we also describe if they are echinolate, I mean there are spines around the cell wall or none. We also describe septation, septation of the cells. We also describe their arrangement. No? The arrangement, if they are in clusters, if they appear in chain, they appear in, and how they are born from the hypha. If they are born laterally along the strands of the hypha, if they are at the tip of the hypha, if they are, at the center of the hypha. So we describe those in order to identify. So the description is quite characteristic for a particular fungi. So we describe it in order to identify the fungi. So example. So these are just example of the microscopic characteristic of fungi. So we'll go into that later. Ayan. These are the different variability in the appearance of their spores. Okay. So as far as morphology is concerned, there are four. Fungi can be classified into four based on morphology. The filament, one is the filamentous type, also known as the mold type, or also known as the hyphal. hyphal type. No? Ito yung nakikita yung mga molds sa mga pagkain. No? So those are the filamentous type. The yeast type, for filamentous type, marami yan. Marami yung different fungi of medical importance showing that characteristic morphology. But the yeast, there's only one species of medical importance, and that is Cryptococcus neoformans. So under yeast, you only have to remember Cryptococcus neoformans. Under yeast-like, which is yeast-like means it's partly yeast, no? There's only one genus under that of medical importance, and that is Candida. So lahat ng species na Candida will fall into that, the yeast-like. The thermal dimorphic fungi, so thermal dimorphic fungi, marami din ito. So I usually ask, no? Thermal dimorphic fungi meaning they may show different morphology, no? They may show two types of morphology based on the temperature. So that's why thermal dimorphic fungi. They appear as filamentous or mold form or hyphal form at room temperature or at 25 degrees C, 25 to 30 degrees C. No? They appear as the mold form, but at body temperature or 35 degrees C, they will transform to a yeast-like morphology. Yeast or yeast-like morphology. Okay, so apat yan, ha? Apat na morphology. The first one is the filamentous fungi. So the basic morphological element of filamentous fungi is the hypha. I've been mentioning hypha, you've been hearing me mention hypha, so that is their basic morphological element, this one, the hypha. And there are two types of hypha. The horizontally expanding hypha, also known as stolon, no? Or the reproductive hypha. Ito yan, stolon, the horizontally expanding hypha that holds conidiophore or sporangiophore together. And it's responsible for growth or reproduction of the fungus. Okay. The other type of hypha is the root-like hypha known as rhizoids. So these are root-like branches that are formed beneath or under the stolon, which anchors the entire fungus to the substrate. So parang mga ugat, no? That holds or anchors the entire fungus to the substrate and is responsible for gaining nutrients for the fungus. Okay, the hypha can either be septated, meaning they are divided by internal cross walls, such as this one. No? Ayan, septated hypha with internal cross walls. No? Those belonging to class Ascomycetes, no? Are usually have septated hypha. No? Or they may also be aseptate, such as those belonging to class Zygomycetes. So the absence of internal cross walls. There are some fungi which will exhibit few numbers of internal cross walls. I forgot the term for that. Nakalimutan ko yung term for that. It's not. Well, never mind. Well, I don't usually ask it naman, but there are some fungi which will exhibit fewer septation. Okay? And what is a mycelium? So a mass of hypha, the one you see sa mga, when molds are already formed, are beginning to form sa mga pagkain nyo or anywhere, no? You see a mass of hypha there, which is, a mass of hypha is termed as mycelium, is known as mycelium. Yung nakikita nyo grossly na mold form, that is a mass of hypha known as mycelium. Example of filamentous fungi is Microsporum gypsum. Now, Microsporum gypsum, this is the characteristic appearance of spores under the microscope. You see it's barrel-shaped, multicellular with rounded ends. Barrel-shaped with rounded ends, so which is characteristic of Microsporum gypsum, which will differentiate it from other Microsporum. No, so yeah, and the spores are this one. These are considered macrocalypta. And so later we'll describe Microsporum later. This is just to show you an example of filamentous fungi. To exemplify mold form. Microsporum gypsum, look at the colonies. The colonies grow moderately rapid. They're buff to cinnamon brown in color, often granular to sugary texture, imparting heavy solubility. So, ito yung hindi na natin. So, do not ask this anymore. Ito lang ang tinatanong ko. Okay? The microscopic appearance. So, another morphology is the yeast. It's the most common fungal isolate from patient. Oh, by the way, filamentous fungi are mostly multicellular. Some are unicellular. But for yeast are unicellular, no? And replicates by budding. It's the most common fungal isolate from patients, and some are part of the normal components of gastrointestinal and genital urinary tract. There's only one encapsulated pathogenic yeast in medical mycology, and that is Cryptococcus neoformans. Now, the colonies of yeast, the colonies that they produce are not helpful in their identification. No? Why? Because why? Because it looks the same as bacterial colonies. So medyo generic ang itsura, ang appearance ng colonies niya, similar to bacterial colonies. Kaya you cannot identify the yeast based on the colonies that they produce. So instead, we have different biochemical tests necessary for definitive diagnosis. What are those? Ayan, yung mga nakasulat dyan. But mainly, identification is based on microscopic features of the spores that they produce. So on India, you see the budding yeast cells. So like this one, you see budding yeast cells around that. The clear zone surrounding the cell is the capsule. On ground staining, this is the Cryptococcus unicellular cell. The clear zone around it, the unstained structure around it represents the capsule. So, yeah, that's the main basis of identifying Cryptococcus neoformans. Next is yeast-like. Bakit siya yeast-like? Next is yeast-like. Yeast-like, no? They are partly yeast and partly as elongated budding cells. They reproduce principally by budding, similar to yeast, no? Forming buds known as blastospores, which are round to oval unicellular budding yeast-like cells. No? But aside from blastospores, there are other features of yeast-like that are not in Cryptococcus neoformans, such as the presence of pseudohypha, the presence of germ tube, and the presence of chlamydospores. These are yung mga features of yeast-like, or candida in short, or candida. Well, candida represents yeast-like. So you may see there the presence of chlamydospores aside from the blastoconidia or blastospores. Then you have the pseudohypha. The pseudohypha are actually blastoconidia that have failed to detach from one another. Or it's actually a hypha that have failed to detach also. So remember, blastoconidia comes from the hypha, that undergoes swelling and budding and releases the blastoconidia. So pseudohypha yan, it's a blastoconidia that have failed to detach from one another. And you also have the germ tube. The germ tube is actually represents the onset of hyphal formation. But sometimes you don't see all those structures in one specimen. So like this one, under it's stained with image in this image on the left side. You see here the chlamydoconia usually form at the center of the hypha and is usually thick wall. The walls of chlamydospores are usually thick because of storage of food. So here you have the chlamydospores, and here you have the blastoconidia or the blastospores, the unicellular oval yeast-like blastospores, and this is the pseudohypha. In this image, can we see germ tube? Well, I'm not so sure, but there are small projection. I think this one is a germ tube. This one over here. Here on your left side is a specimen showing asynchronous fungal and bacterial infection. So itong mga egg-like stripe and structure at the background. So these are the epithelial cells. Itong mga to, these are the gram-negative bacilli, most likely Gardnerella vaginalis. And you have here a concomitant fungal infection. So you have the budding yeast cell, a pseudohypha. Dito, walang, I do not see chlamydospores here. I do not see the germ tube in this image. Okay, so that is Candida albicans, and the colony is similar to bacterial colonies. So the colonies of yeast and yeast-like are non-diagnostic, so they are not helpful in their identification. And finally, you have the thermal dimorphic fungi. These are examples of thermal dimorphic fungi. Yan. So they're easily memorized. Memorizing mo lang yan. I usually ask which one of the following is not a thermal fungi, or which one of the following are thermal dimorphic fungi, etc. So yan, memorize mo yan. So they take the form of fungi at, example, Histoplasma capsulatum at room temperature or 25 to 30 degrees C. They take the form of fungal fungi or mold form. So the typical colonies of Histoplasma capsulatum, Samuel's lectures offer. Colonies are slow-growing, white or buff brown, swing-like to cottony with a pale yellow-brown ribbon side. Diba? Ang hirap niya i-memorize, ipapaluloka. So, alamin niya. Okay? Okay, but the characteristic feature under the microscope is this one. The presence of a tuberculate macroconidia or chlamydospores. So it's a round oval macroconidia with a round oval chlamydospores or round oval macroconidia. So macro, but particularly chlamydospores. No? With the walls are very thick and with spines around it, but the spines you cannot really appreciate it. The name capsulatum is actually a misnomer. This is not a capsule. No, the walls is just thick. It appears like a capsule, but it's not a capsule. Huh? And we also have small microconelia there. But what is but the characteristic feature of Histoplasma capsulatum is this one: the large, round chlamydoconelia. Chlamydospores. Okay, if you see that, you know it's Histoplasma capsulatum. The hypha is septated. That is at room temperature, but at body temperature, they are transformed into yeast-like, budding yeast-like cells. So the colonies are typical of bacterial colonies, similar to bacterial colonies. And here, in tissues, no, if you do a biopsy of the tissue, you will appreciate budding unicellular yeast cells. Okay? So in summary, the four types of fungi based on their morphology: the fungal form or the mold form or the hyphal form, the yeast form, Cryptococcus uniforme, the yeast-like as exemplified by Candida, and the different dimorphic fungi at room temperature and at body temperature. Okay? So classification based on taxonomy, so they all belong to the kingdom of fungi under the phylum Tylophyta. There are four important classes. Class Zygomycetes, wherein asexual spores are Sporangospores type. The sexual spore are the Zygospores and the Oospores type. The hypha is usually aseptate, no? Those belonging to class Ascomycetes, the sexual spores are the ascospores, no? Characterized by the ascus. Asexual spores are the Conidia type, produced through budding, swelling. The hypha is septated. Those belonging to Basidiomycetes, the sexual spores are Basidiospores or a Basidium. Asexual spores are also the Conidia type. They have a septated hypha. And then this class, the class Deuteromycetes, they lack a known sexual state. No? But asexual spores are the Conidia type. So this illustration here, you might the life cycle of the different classes you might wanna take a look at them. Ito yung ascus. Okay, this is for Zygomycetes. You see there the sporangium, no? Sporangium. Here, yan, this is the ascus, and this is the basidium for class Basidiomycetes. Okay, now, so that is the introduction. Any question?
None, Doc.
Anna. Thank you for answering me. So now, this is the main part of our topic. Medical mycology. What is medical mycology? Is the study of mycosis of man and their etiologic agent. The disease is collectively referred to as mycosis. No? There are about 300 species of fungi pathogenic to man, but most fungi are plant pathogens. Pathogenicity of fungi depends on their ability to tolerate temperature or increased temperature, their ability to survive in tissue environment, and their ability to withstand our host defenses. Establishment of infection with a mycotic agent depends on the inoculum size and the resistance of the host. Actually, severity of the disease depends more on the host immune system rather than the virulence of the fungus. No? Fungi are found almost everywhere in the environment, particularly in soil and in plants. Epidemic result from mass exposure to environmental source of fungi. They are generally not reportable. Most people will experience amycosis at some point, typically acquired via inhalation, trauma, or ingestion. No? Those that are acquired trauma will usually affect the skin, the hair, and the nails. No? And usually cause infection, no? Whether localized or systemic. Those that acquired through inhalation primarily affects the respiratory tract. No? Those that acquired through inhalation of spores, no, primarily affects the respiratory tract and may lead to hypersensitivity reaction. No? And those that acquired through ingestion, primarily ingestion of the aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is the toxic material of fungi. No? Primarily affects the gastrointestinal tract and may lead to toxicosis. No? But majority of mycosis are infections, and infections are divided into two: the pathogenic and the opportunistic. And the pathogenic is further classified based on the area involved. This may be cutaneous, superficial, subcutaneous, and systemic. No? So, mycosis infrequently spread from person to person, contrary to what we know. No, most mycosis are not contagious, except for one group of fungus, which are the dermatophytes. So dermatophytes are the major example. So they are contagious. The rest, excuse me. The rest are not. Okay, so do not hesitate to work on patients with mycosis. Okay, so host defenses, well, generally humans have high level of innate immunity against fungal infection. Antibody are often produced but do not confer immunity. Cell-mediated immunity or T-cell immunity is effective in resisting fungal infection. Diagnosis, one, based on history, with a good medical history and physical examination, but definitive diagnosis is, again, based on morphology of the colonies on Sabouraud's dextrose agar and morphology of the spores that they produce on Sabouraud's dextrose agar. Other techniques as preliminary identification, we could do different staining method. The most common is the KOH smear. Siguro you know this already. You've encountered this already. The potassium hydroxide smear. No? Basically, this screening or this preliminary or this staining method, will differentiate fungal infection from other skin diseases such as psoriasis and eczema. Now, so, they may look, the lesions may look almost the same. So to differentiate them, is this a fungal or other non-infectious etiology? You do a KOH here. It's a rapid, inexpensive screening test to differentiate fungal infection from other skin diseases such as psoriasis and eczema. Okay, other staining method, you have the lactophenol cotton blue, periodic acid chip, India ink, and beauty carmine stain. But most commonly employed is KOH smear. In one of our laboratory exercises, siguro the week after next week, we'll do a KOH smear in the laboratory. Okay, so what else? Okay, treatment. Well, as mentioned earlier, they're the most difficult to diagnose because majority, especially the simple cutaneous mycosis, are not reported. So they're easily missed. Diagnosis is easily missed. But treatment is also difficult. For what reason? We share the same type of cell as fungi, no? So they're the most difficult to treat, and it may take at least a month may not be enough to completely eradicate the mycosis, no? At least 3 months to treat. And the most difficult to treat are the subcutaneous mycosis. For antifungal drugs, I will not go into this in detail anyway. You're also going to take this up in your pharmacology. So, but what I usually ask during my exam is the mechanism of action. So some of these antifungal drugs are systemically administered, some oral, some topical. No? The gold standard of all antifungal drugs is amphotericin B, from which all other antifungal drugs are derived, and mostly are directed towards ergosterol. No? So I will just move forward. I will leave it up to you to study the mechanism of action of these different antifungal drugs. Okay? This is ergosterol synthesis. You might want to take a look. Antifungal vaccine, there are some antifungal vaccine, but again, they're difficult to develop because it will not only destroy the invading fungus, no, but it may also harm normal cell of the host. Okay, so these are clinical manifestation of fungal diseases. So may be classified into sinabi ko na ito, the infection, those that are acquired usually through trauma or an open wound, no? Hypersensitivity acquired mostly through inhalation of fungal spores, and toxicosis acquired through ingestion of mycotoxin. No? So, I will skip muna the infection. Medyo mahaba to. Mahaba yung infection na yan. So here, hypersensitivity. So inhalation of fungal spores or allergen that may lead to type 1 hypersensitivity reaction or type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Example, inhalation of moldy hay may lead to farmer's lungs disease. Inhalation of moldy barley may lead to malt workers disease, and so on. So the organ system primarily involved is the lungs. We're here in toxicosis. This is ingestion of fungal toxin. There are two types. Mycotoxicosis is basically ingestion of the aflatoxin, which is the most well-known mycotoxin, which can be fatal to many vertebrates and carcinogenic even at low levels. No? The other type of toxicosis is mycetismus. This is ingestion of the deadliest mushroom toxin produced by the dead cap mushroom or Amanita phyloides. So, yeah. Mycetismus, ingestion of this mushroom may cause mycetismus, but in general, ingestion of aflatoxin may cause mycotoxicosis. Okay, now we go back to infection. Ito yung madami. And it gets harder, from superficial, carry pa yan. Cutaneous, carry pa yan. But once we reach subcutaneous system, kahit ako, I'm having difficulty teaching subcutaneous and systemic mycosis. So you see the tables that I've prepared for you. So will make your studying easier. No, so it's summarized in the table. So all you have to do is know how to study it. So example. Okay, I'll give you an example. Superficial mycosis So the disease is known as pityriasis versicolor. The etiologic agent, most common, is Malassezia purpura, which is clinically characterized by hypopigmented macule, usually involving the trunk, the front or back of the trunk, and is uh, clinically, this is the clinical features, and the microscopic features is the appearance of the overall appearance of the fungal, of the fungus. No, it will give you a spaghetti and meatball appearance. The spaghetti or the hypha represents the spaghetti, and the spores or the conidia represents the meatballs. So later I'll show you the picture if you can appreciate the spaghetti and meatball appearance, characteristic appearance of the of the fungi. No? So yeah, tingnan it also. Let's go into it one by one. What is the difference of superficial from cutaneous? Superficial mycosis, well, they are both, no, they both involve the outermost layer of the skin, but the difference, superficial mycosis, it's localized there, superficial lang. It doesn't involve the deeper layer. No, it doesn't involve the deeper layer of the skin, and it does not elicit an immunologic response from the host cell. So there's no pathologic change you see from the host cell. So nandun lang siya. Unlike cutaneous mycosis, yes, the lesion may begin at the outermost layer of the skin, but eventually the deeper layer may get involved. And once it invades the underlying layers of the skin, this may already elicit an immunologic response and a pathologic change within the host. No? How about subcutaneous mycosis? Subcutaneous mycosis, the lesions are usually acquired through an opening, through direct trauma to the skin. No? The infection or the infection is usually inoculated initially at the deeper layer of the skin. So infection may start from the deeper layer of the skin. Eventually, that will evolve or extend outwards, and it's expressed clinically as a skin lesion on the outermost layer of the skin. Okay, so yeah, I hope you got the difference there. So superficial mycosis, limited to the outermost layer. They're the most common fungal infection. All are diagnosed by microscopy and are easily treated by topical preparation. But it may take weeks, at least a month, of putting topical antifungal drugs there to completely eradicate the fungi. There are four most common superficial mycosis. So we begin with pityriasis, pityriasis versicolor or pityriasis folliculitis. So pityriasis versicolor, the layman term is an. So the causative agent is Malassezia purpura, which is a dimorphic fungi. So you know what's a dimorphic fungi already. It's clinically characterized by hypopigmented macules or well-demarcated white or pink or fawn or brownish lesion coalescing together over the trunk, in front or at the back, usually covered with thin purpuraceous scales. So this is the clinical picture of pityriasis versicolor, or if it's pityriasis folliculitis, this is characterized by itchy follicular papules and pustules. Diagnostic features of Malassezia purpura. This is what it's a dimorphic fungi. So dependent sa temperature nyo. So at at body temperature, no? At body temperature, that is when you will observe the spaghetti and meatball appearance. So these are thick-walled yeast-like cells, unicellular. You see this, the conglomerate or the aggregate, no? The clusters of yeast-like or body yeast cells, no? Represents the meatballs. So they appear as meatballs, and the hypha are the spaghetti. No? Can you appreciate it? The overall appearance, it seems spaghetti and meatballs. Pag nabasa niyo yan, spaghetti and meatballs, that's Malassezia food. Okay, do you appreciate the spaghetti and meatballs?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, let's move on. So here, yeah, this is at body temperature. So the colonies at body temperature, no, the spaghetti, again, the spaghetti and meatball appearance, no, at body temperature, seen on KOH smear. Next, tinea nigra. The causative agent is Exophalia wernicki. It's a demataceous fungi. You know what demataceous is, di ba? Alam nyo na, demataceous. Demataceous fungi. This is clinically characterized by presence of a black macule. So if it's demataceous, the clinical appearance, yan, black siya, no? Black siya. So black macule, usually on the palmar surface of the hand or plantar surface of the feet. No? The lesion is black and the spores are black as well. No? Clinically characterized by presence of a black macule and with microscopic features of a bicellular yeast-like chlamydia with dark walls, no, because of melanin. Yeah, bicellular yeast-like chlamydia, Exophalia wernicki. And even the colonies, no, even the colonies are black in color. Okay? So number 3, black piedra, the causative agent is piedra ortei. No, also as black piedra from the name. Black, it's a demataceous fungi, one of the keratinolytic fungi. No? Clinically characterized by presence of a black nodule along the hair shaft. No, you do not appreciate the black nodule here, but if you look at the hair shaft under the microscope, you see it, the black nodule along the hair shaft. Microscopic feature is the appearance of whip-like appendages of the ascospores. So these are the sexual spores of the sexual spores of the fungi, no? Giving you a whip-like appendages appearance of the ascospores. Sorry, tinanggalan ko. And then the colonies are also black in color, no? And the fourth of the superficial mycosis is white piedra. This is the opposite of black piedra. The causative agent is Trichosporum jelly. This one naman is characterized by presence of a white nodule along the hair shaft. And the spores are the arthrochlamydia type, those that are formed through septation and fragmentation in hypha, no, releasing the spores in a chain-like pattern, arthrochlamydia. Okay. The colonies white in color. Okay. Now, cutaneous mycosis. Cutaneous mycosis also are superficial fungal infection, but may extend deeper into the epidermis and cause cellular immune response. and pathologic change in the host cell. And the lesion may extend, ayun na nga, express in the deeper layer of the skin. The agent causing these diseases are collectively termed as dermatophytes. So also known as keratinophilic fungi because they produce the extracellular enzyme keratinase capable of hydrolyzing keratin. So this dermatophytes is composed of 3 genera. They're composed by members of 3 genera. So remember, Microsporum, Trichophyton, and Epitheliophyton. So when we talk of dermatophytes, there are 3 genera involved, composed by Microsporum, Trichophyton, and Epitheliophyton. They are referred to as dermatophytosis, or ringworm, or tinea. So previously referred to as tinea. That they are, well, the lesions are all similar, clinically characterized by appearance of appearance of a ring-like lesion. Depende na lang sa location. If it's in the head, it's referred to as tinea capitis. If it's in the body, you see the ring-like lesion, it's tinea corporis. It's in the butt, tinea cruris. If it's in the hand, tinea manus. Then we have tinea pedis, and so on. So in general, there are ring-like lesions. So morphologically or microscopically, how are they different? So you can differentiate between. Let's differentiate the genuses. Between or among the genuses. Microsporum overall will show predominance of macroconidia with few microconidia, which is the opposite of Trichophyton. Trichophyton overall will give you predominance of microconidia with few macroconidia. While Epidermophyton, it's all macroconidia, walang microconidia. You will not appreciate microconidia in Epidermophyton. Okay? So now, okay, did you get that? Microsporum, you have predominance. Well, the hypha are also plated. In Microsporum, there is predominance of macroconidia with few microconidia. The opposite is Trichophyton, wherein there is predominance of microconidia with few macroconidia. And Epidermophyton, lahat macroconidia. So now, let's differentiate within the genus. So let's start with Microsporum species. Microsporum species mostly infect the hair and the skin, rarely the nails. So there are 2 medically important species of Microsporum, Microsporum gypsum and Microsporum canis. So both this species will show predominant macroconidia and few microconidia. So how are we going to differentiate them? We differentiate them by looking at the characteristic appearance of the macroconidia. The microconidia of Microsporum is non-diagnostic, meaning generic ang itsura, will not be able to differentiate them merely by looking at the microconidia. You have to look at the macroconidia. The macroconidia is the one that is in the diagnostic in order to differentiate if it's gypsum or if it's canis. So let's look at it. Microsporum gypsum is like I've shown you kanina. So you see here, what is dominant? Macroconidia. These are the macroconidia and these are the microconidia. So see, the microconidia are few or rare in numbers, but macroconidia, sa isang field of view, you see a lot of macroconidia. So what is diagnostic here is the macroconidia. Look at the macroconidia. It's barrel, it's ellipsoidal in shape with rounded ends. That is actually the key word there, rounded ends. Yun lang yun, that's the differentiator. Rounded ends and the rest are similar. The shape lang ang iba, ellipsoidal with rounded ends. All the rest, multicellular, accumulate, multiseptate, pareho sila. in Microsporum canis, it's more of a spindle shape because of the pointed tips. Are we good? Rounded ends, gypsum, pointed tips, the canis. For Microsporum canis, you see it's spindle shaped with pointed ends. No? So nagkakaiba sila, they differ in the appearance of the macroconidia. But the microconidia are described as rare, unicellular, solitary, oval, in shape. Pareho lang. So you cannot differentiate them by just looking at the microconidia. Okay, good? Huh? Na-appreciate mo ba?
Yes, Doc.
Yes, okay. Colonies of Microsporum. Epidermophyton, ano sabi ko kanina? It's all macroconidia. But anyway, there's only one species that is of medical importance of Epidermophyton. There's only one species, no? That is pathogenic to man. That is Epidermophyton tricosum. No? It's the most common cause of tinea cruris with worldwide distribution, man as the primary cause. So, you see here, it's all macroconidia. Wala kang makikitang microconidia at the back. Okay? And the macroconidia are described as club-shaped, occurring in singly or in clusters of 3 to 4, no? With rounded ends, thin, smooth, bone, multicellular with 2 to 4 cells with septated hypha. Okay? So, isa lang yan. So, that's easy. This is the colonies of Microsporum. Gypsum trichophyton is the opposite of Microsporum. No? It inhabits the soil, human or animals. They require nicotinic acid for growth. There are 2 species that are pathogenic to man. These are Trichophyton mentagrophytes, which is the most common cause of tinea pedis, and Trichophyton rubrum, which is the common cause of tinea rubrum. Okay, here, so there is predominance of microconidia with few macroconidia. But here, both micro and macro are diagnostic. So meaning, you can identify the species merely by looking at either the microconidia or the macroconidia. So let's take, for example, Trichophyton mentagrophytes. Let's describe first the microconidia since it is the predominant spores. No? So they're numerous. So these are the microconidia. You see they're numerous, unicellular, round, or piriform shape, arranged in clusters. So the key word here is round and in clusters. Round, arranged in clusters for mentagrophytes. While for rubrum, the microconidia are teardrop shaped and are born laterally from a long strand of the hypha. So they are born at the sides of the hypha. So like this one. Okay? Appreciate niyo ba yan? So, round, arranged in clusters, mentagrophytes. Okay? Teardrop shaped along a long strand of hypha, Trichophyton rubrum. Now let's look at the macroconidia. The macroconidia of Trichophyton mentagrophytes are shorter and wider or stouter, mas mataba, giving you a cigar-shaped appearance, no? Or a short sausage. Yung mga maliliit na short sausage lang. Okay? But you see, there are few in numbers lang, di ba? While the macroconidia of Trichophyton rubrum are longer, slender, narrow, no, long and narrow and slender, giving you a pencil-shaped appearance. Pencil shape or a long sausage. May mga makahabang sausage, di ba? Long sausage here, yung short sausage, yung isa. Okay, so here you will see both spores, both type of spores, the macro and the micro, are both diagnostic. Nakuha nyo? So, colonies of Trichophyton. Okay, so that's the easier part, and it gets harder as we discuss subcutaneous mycosis. Medyo, pati yung energy ko dito bababa na. Hanggang ano lang din ako, hanggang 1 hour lang ako. Then you'll notice slowly that my energy is getting low already. Okay, subcutaneous mycosis. Lesion initially involves the deeper layer of the skin, no? Involving the the muscle, the fascia, and the bones, no? Usually acquired through direct inoculation through a penetrating injury or trauma. Most infections have chronic or insidious growth pattern with very long incubation. No? So initially nga involving the deeper layer of the skin, but eventually are expressed clinically as lesion on the skin surface, no? As the lesion progresses. So these are probably the most difficult to treat, subcutaneous mycosis, because of the long incubation period. So it may take at least 1 year to treat subcutaneous mycosis, even with systemic antifungal drugs. And at times, you may need surgical intervention to completely, eradicate the infection. Okay, so there are basically 4 mycosis under this: the sporotrichosis, chromoblastomycosis, phaeohypomycosis, and mycetoma. Kindly read the treatment and management. First, sporotrichosis. No, there's only one etiologic agent for this. They are caused by Sporotrix scanki. It's the only species pathogenic to man. It's a dimorphic fungus occurring worldwide, isolated from soil and plants. So those working in mines or forests, or florists and gardeners are usually at risk of developing sporotrichosis. So clinically, there are 2 forms of sporotrichosis, the cutaneous form and the systemic. 2 types, the lymphangitic form and the fixed type, where the lymphangitic form, the lesions, well, let's describe first the lesions. The lesions are, the primary lesions, are nodules, soft and ulcerated, or sometimes acneiform or nodular or bumatous, simulating epithelioma or verrucous, so like this. So the lymphangitic form, it starts at the inoculated site, but may involve the lymph nodes along that lymphatic chain. So gumagapang siya along that lymphatic chain. No? While the fixed type, wala, yun lang siya. It's localized at the site of inoculation. Okay? While the systemic form, the portal of entry is usually through the lungs, and will present with a pulmonary manifestation. Initially localized sa lungs, but eventually may involve other organ system, or may spread, or the infection may disseminate into other organ system. Okay, so this, the more common form is the lymphangitic form. The systemic form is rarely fatal when left untreated. It's a demataceous fungi. So you see you see a different features at room and at body temperature. So at room temperature, ito siya. Ito na yung nakakatamay. So you see here a dissipated hypha. From that sympated hypha, you form a long and slender conidiophore, and at the tip of conidiophore are rosette-like clusters of conidia. At the tip of that conidiophore are rosette-like clusters conidia. Rosette, conidia in rosette-like clusters. No? But there are times that conidia are formed directly from the hypha. So like this one, or like this one, like this one. But The term there is rosette-like clusters. Okay, are we good? Rosette-like clusters. This is at room temperature. But at body temperature, they appear as cigar-shaped bodies. No? And at times, if you probably take a biopsy of the biopsy of a biopsy of the center of the lesion where there is suppuration, no, or suppurative granuloma, the center of the granuloma, this may exhibit ito, sporothrix asteroid, no? Sporothrix asteroid or the splendor Hoopley phenomenon. Okay. You may appreciate that. Okay, very good. Next is, so this is the colonies at room temperature and at body temperature. Okay. Next is chromoblastomycosis. So there are many etiologic agents for chromoblastomycosis, such as Pianophora verrucosa is the most common. You have Fonseca pedicel, Fonseca compacta, Cladistorium caryoni, and Rhinoclardiella actospera. Okay, what is common to them is, number one, so the criteria for chromoblastomycosis or the features common to all these etiologic is one is the presence of the medlar bodies or sclerotic bodies or neuriform cells or copper penny cells. So these are distinctive structures in infected tissue produced by all fungi causing chromoblastomycosis. So these are dark brown or cigar-colored spherical thick-walled structure with horizontal or vertical septa inside, found singly or in clusters within the giant cell. So example ito, if you do a biopsy of the abscess, so you see this is the abscess and inside that is the medlar bodies. So that's one criterion, medlar bodies. Number two, number one is the presence of medlar bodies. Of the lesion, which usually starts as a wart-like or verrucoid lesion, but may progress to cauliflower to psoriasis-like lesions. So the lesions may be nodular type, maybe nodular or tumoral type like this one, or verrucous or plaque type like this one, no? Which will all progress to cauliflower-like or psoriasis-like lesions. Ayan, yung mga 5 clinical forms of the lesions. Okay. So, what can we say about this one? What else? Prominent features, so the lesion, no? The lesions or the infection may even lead to elephantiasis. So, yeah, from there, it may lead to elephantiasis. So, how do we differentiate the different etiologic agent of chromoblastomycosis? Based on their microscopic features. Pianophora verrucosa. Okay, you have a septated hypha here, a short and slender conidiophore, which is flask-shaped, no? A flask-shaped conidiophore or fioline. No, fioline. So, fioline is the term for the appropriate term for the conidiophore. So flask. So again, septated hypha, a flask-shaped fioline or conidiophore, and at the tip of that is a cup-shaped collarette. A cup-shaped collarette, and at the tip of that will form the conidia, which are oval in shape and arranged in ball clusters. No? So, yan ang Pianophora verrucosa. Collarette, hypha, fioline, collarette, and conidia. So, para siyang flower vase, so a flower arrangement in a flower vase. No? Sporothrix kensi, parang it's a one long stem rose. No? So, Pianophora Yan. Okay. Colonies of Pianophora. Next one is Fonseca pedrosoy. This one, paano naman to? Okay, a long, also septated hypha, a long and slender conidiophore, which will branch out to form tooth-like conidiophore. Yan, tooth-like conidiophore. And at the tip of that are single-celled barrel-shaped conidia. Single-shaped barrel-shaped conidia produced on a short dendricrels or tooth-like conidiophore. Okay? Okay, so far okay pa. Cladosporium carioni. How about Cladosporium carioni? So for this one, it's tree-like branching of the hypha conidiophore structure. So the hypha, the conidiophore with tree-like branching, no? And conidia are oval, no? Oval or round in shape, form at the tip of those tree-like branching conidiophore. But they are at times characterized by presence of shield cells, which are actually septated conidia. No? So, septated conidia, shield cells. So, usually yun ang tinatanong ko. Shield cell, Cladosporium carioni. The characteristic features. Ano pa? So, colonies of Cladosporium carioni. Number 3, phaeohypomycosis. So, ito, there are also different etiologic agent causing phaeohypomycosis. The most common is Wandjella dermatitidis. No? The lesions tend to attack the CNS. No? Clinically characterized by a subcutaneous black cyst. So it's a demataceous fungi, so you expect lesions to be black in color as well. So demataceous black cyst, which may involve the skin, ito cutaneous form, or the subcutaneous form, or the paranasal form, or the so this paranasal form, ito yung at risk of developing cerebral phaeohypomycosis from an ascending infection, no? Eventually involving the CNS and may cause brain abscess. Okay? So these are the clinical forms: cutaneous, subcutaneous, paranasal, and cerebral hypomycosis. But the lesions are similar, no? Subcutaneous black cyst. On microscopy, you see this. You have a long and slender hypha, and then you have here a short conidiophore, from which conidia are formed. If you see, the conidia are arranged in ball-like clusters, but they arise or form at the tip, but may extend down on the sides of the hypha. So here the conidiophore may be formed at the tip, but they extend, katulad nito, on the sides of the hypha. Okay? They do not have collarette like Pianophora verrucosa. No? So here again, a septated hypha, a flask-shaped to cylindrical conidiophore or pialide, and ayan, yung and the round to oval shaped conidia are arranged in clusters at the apices of the pialide, extending down the sides of the conidiophore. Okay, so that's Wandjella dermatitidis. And last of the subcutaneous mycosis is mycetoma. No? So here, it's a chronic suppurative granulomatous disease of the skin and subcutaneous tissue, which may involve the muscle, bones, and adjacent organs characterized by tumefaction, abscess formation, fistula or draining sinus tract with grossly visible pigmented grains and granules, which is the clinical hallmark of the mycosis, no? Typically affecting the lower extremity, no? Typically involving the lower extremity, referred to as, no, Madura foot. So parang ganito. Yan. No? It may look yucky, but take note, this is non-contagious. Even if you, siguro kahit kawak-kawakan mo yan. No, I haven't seen in real life ng ganito, but I could just imagine. No? Since it's not contagious, siguro kahit kawakan mo yan. No, it would be so. See there, the serisanguinous draining sinus tract with grossly visible pigmented granules. Okay, so yucky. So, many etiologic agent of mycetoma, the most common is Madurella species. I cannot describe to you the conidia conidiophore hyphal structure. No? Para siyang root-like branching ng conidiophore structure. No? But what is common among this etiologic agent is the presence of black-gray mycetoma in tissue. No? If you do the biopsy, you see this black-gray mycetoma. Okay? And colonies. Then, systemic mycosis. Class, pagod na ako. How about you? Ito na ba ang last class nyo?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, systemic mycosis, the four most common ones are the coccidioidomycosis, histoplasmosis, blastomycosis, and the paracoccidioidomycosis. No? They originate primarily in the lungs, acquired through inhalation, but eventually, depending on the immune status of the patient, infection may disseminate to many organ systems. The primary focus of infection, or the primary initial focus of infection, is the lungs, but secondary infection may occur elsewhere in the body. They're inherently virulent, although uncommon, no? And they may require a large inoculum and a susceptible host to form the disease. Most are asymptomatic and self-limiting, but among immunocompromised, infections are more fatal. So, okay. The first one is coccidioidomycosis. So, mali yung spelling ko. Coccidioido. Dapat coccidioidomycosis. Nakulang yan. The etiologic agent is Coccidioides immitis. It's a thermally dimorphic fungus at body temperature. No? It's, well, before that. No, this one is considered to be the most virulent of all fungal pathogens. So, inhalation of a single spore can initiate infection, especially among immunocompromised. So, clinically, okay, primary infection may be asymptomatic or may cause valley fever, which is an influenza-like illness with associated nodular lesion in the lungs. So eventually, this may cause a secondary disseminated infection. So clinically, this is characterized by presence of an endospore-relating spherules. So you have the spherules here, and inside are the endospores. Okay, so that's the this is the diagnostic features characteristic of coccidioidomycosis. And then you have the next one is Histoplasma capsulatum. It's also a thermally dimorphic fungi. Natural reservoir are soil, bat, and avian. So exposure to bats may cause Histoplasma capsulatum. No? This is also known as Cave's disease. 90% of cases are clinically insignificant. It is often the initial manifestation of immunodeficiency. Disseminated histoplasmosis is diagnosed frequently in patients with AIDS living in the U.S. So, clinically, you may have pulmonary infection, most of which are asymptomatic or may have infection ranging from mild to severe to chronic cavitary pulmonary lesions. No, disseminated infections are very rare. You may also have a primary cutaneous infection, histoplasmosis, and at times this may also be manifested as ocular histoplasmosis, causing scarring, which can obscure the macula and lead to loss of central vision. The first sign are the small histo spots. So here, this is at room temperature. The characteristic macroconidia, which are tuberculate chlamydospores, so macroconidia, with few microconidia. So diagnostic is the large macroconidia, which are described as tuberculate chlamydospores. This is Histoplasma capsulatum at body temperature. Yan yung mga budding yeast cells. Budding yeast cells. Ayan. In a macrophage. Inside a macrophage. Okay, number 3 is blastomycosis, also a thermally dimorphic fungi at clinically, not clinically. Ayan, the clinical manifestation, majority are asymptomatic or with initial primary cutaneous infection or initial pulmonary infection and secondary disseminated infection. See, pare-pareho lang, but the studies they may start in the lungs, and most of them may have asymptomatic presentation. But here, microscopic characteristic of blastomycosis, at body temperature, you have a single bud attached to a broad base. So, na-appreciate nyo naman siguro yan. So, that's easily appreciated. A single bud attached to a broad base, while at room temperature, the conidia-conidiophore structure will exhibit a lollipop-like shape. Conidia, it's small with a short conidiophore. So, lollipop-like conidia-conidiophore structure. Okay. Blastomycosis clinically, ayan. You see here, if you do chest x-ray, you may appreciate the presence of small nodular opacities, distributed throughout the lung parenchyma. Like this one. Okay, lesions, here is a cutaneous lesion of blastomycosis. Now, it's microabscesses, granulomatous appearance of the skin. And finally, paracoccidioidomycosis, also a thermally dimorphic fungi. What you need to remember here na lang is the appearance on body temperature, which will give you a mariner's or ship wheel appearance of the yeast. Yeast cells, ayan, mariner's wheel or ship's wheel appearance of the yeast. This one, I don't know how to describe it. Hindi ko na tinatanong yan. I don't know how to describe that. Okay? So, the lesions is more or less similar to blastomycosis, na yung mga gumatous lesion at cutaneous microabscess, gumatous lesion. And finally, opportunistic mycosis, but I'm tired, class, Madali na lang to. Okay, so I will leave that as a reading assignment to you guys. Anyway, we've talked about na-mention ko na in candidiasis, no? I mentioned this already, no? The features of candidiasis, so chlamydospore, pseudohypha, blastochlamydia, and germ tube, no? Clinical manifestation, you may have a superficial candidiasis, no? Like thrush, vulvovaginitis, spontaneous candidiasis, or onychomycosis, or you may have systemic candidemia, no? Or chronic mucocutaneous mycosis, parang ganito, no? Medyo yucky na ito na kalaman nila. Chronic mucocutaneous candidiasis. So, Cryptococcus neoformans. So, somehow, mention na natin yan. Okay, there are two important species, Cryptococcus neoformans with serotypes A and B, Cryptococcus gatti with serotypes B and C. This Cryptococcus neoformans is most common among immunocompromised, while Cryptococcus gatti is most common in immunocompetent hosts. No? With worldwide distribution, reservoir, bird droppings, so exposure to mga pigeons. Yan, pwede nyo makuha ang Cryptococcus there. Acquired to inhalation or inhalation of yeast or smaller basidospores, exposure to pigeon or chicken droppings, which initially invades the respiratory tract and disseminate into other organ systems. No? Okay, it's rapidly growing round body with cells. Ayan. Infection is enhanced by the capsule, which can resist phagocytosis, no? Or the lactase and urease enzyme and melanin production, also inhibits phagocytosis. Disease manifestation, chronic meningitis, you have primary cryptococcal pneumonia, hematogenous dissemination, you have genitourinary or prostatic cryptococcosis or primary cutaneous cryptococcosis. Okay. The rest, class, kayo ng reading assignment for the remaining mycosis. Okay. I will stop here. Question.